Thank you. So the next part of our program is when a member of our community comes up to talk to us, and it's called a community moment. Our community moment presenter today is a longtime member of our community and a good friend of mine. He's given a talk here before where he showcased some of the most detailed artwork that he does of space. These are original works of art that were beautiful to see. Many of you have taken some of his posters home that he's been graciously bringing here for us to have, which is very kind of him. So let's welcome back Tim Barton.
Okay, so I don't know how I can follow that. That was pretty incredible. So I'm going to do my best to impress you even further. So last community moment I came up here and I talked about my artwork, and basically that was what it was all about. There's a little bit of science mixed in. This time I wanted to tell my life story, but in a way that wasn't boring. So I wanted to do it in this sort of interesting way. And what I did was I looked back on my life and I looked at the different facts that came inconveniently into my life that sort of changed my life. And over years of cognitive dissonance, eventually they would come back and go, oh, okay, that was right. I guess I do need to change my opinion. And so after that, I'm going to talk about a bunch of, well, just awesome facts that don't really have a huge impact, except that they bring joy to me. So first thing, I want to give you a little bit of background. When I was about 17 years old, I was a creationist, a Christian, and a Calvinist. Some of you may know what Calvinism is. Calvinists believe that everything that happens was predestinated by God. So if someone gets saved, it's because God decided that they would get saved. Everyone else, well, you're just screwed, sorry. So I believed in that. I believe the earth was 6,000 years old. I believe that Noah's Ark was literally true, that the entire planet actually was covered in water. And I believe that scientists were all in on a big conspiracy. I don't know, maybe they had a secret handshake. I'm not sure exactly how I reconciled this with reality, but so I believe this, and it was mostly due to ignorance and because I was believing in people that I trusted that were lying. One person in particular sticks out, and that is Kent Hovind. Someone gave me some videos of him, and for whatever reason, in my ignorance, they seemed very, very persuasive. But over time, as facts came in and gradually changed my opinions, eventually I realized that was all completely wrong. So here's the first fact that I can remember from my life that really made a big impact on me. I was in geology class and had a pretty crummy geology teacher. But this was in the book. There's this little picture, and I thought it was just awesome, and it blew my mind. This is a map of the seafloor and the ages of the rocks in the seafloor. And as you can see, there's a red strip. So see the Atlantic Ocean on the right. There's a red strip going down the middle because those rocks are younger than the rocks that are closer towards the coasts. So blue means really, really old. Red means really, really young. And how do they know that? Did a bunch of scientists get together and just say, yeah, here we're going to just assign some dates to these rocks? Well, actually what they do is they have a magnetometer. And it's a little device that they drag behind their boat across the seafloor, and it measures the magnetic fields of the rocks on the seafloor. And excuse me, I need to get my notes out. I actually have them on my phone. And yes, this is a generation where we no longer print things out, we just use our phone for notes. Yes, and I also recycle. So this picture on the top left shows a diagram. The magnetic fields swap every 700,000 years or so, and sometimes they don't swap, sometimes they do. We're actually due for another swap of the magnetic fields coming up pretty soon, so that'll be interesting when it starts to happen. Apologize. So that's how they know that the age of the ocean floor is what it is, because they can compare it to rocks on the land, and they can date the rocks on the land easily. It's not very easy to date the rocks at the bottom of the ocean because it's kind of hard to get down there. But anyways, yeah, so this fact got in my brain and sort of convincing me that not everything I had been taught was true. And over time, not immediately, because it sticks in your brain for a long period of time, and that's how I think humans work. We don't immediately change our opinions. You may give someone a really powerful fact, and they may reject it at the moment, but then 2 years later, they may remember that fact, and then they feel like they are the ones making the discovery, and that's whenever they change their opinions. No one changes their opinions because someone tells them something. They change their opinions because they believe they discovered something. And that's what happened to me. Believed I discovered this, but in reality I was told it. So, fact number 2, I was a hardcore Christian. I believed the Bible was 100% literally true, inerrant, without any mistakes or anything. And that's a problem whenever you start reading the book. This is Mark chapter 16, verses 9. And as you can see at the top there, it says, there's a little note, this is the NIV Bible, it says, the earliest manuscripts and some other ancient witnesses do not have Mark 16, 9 through 20. And at first glance that seems kind of inconspicuous, but then you think about it, the earliest manuscripts don't have this, which means it was added in later. That bugged me. That part of my Bible was added in later, and it's supposed to be inerrant. So let's see. This is really interesting for some of you who may be former Christians. Look at what some of the things that are in here. Some of the things, maybe you hear Christians quote these verses. Go into all the world and preach the good news to all creation. It was added in later. That's interesting. Here's one that I once threw at a street preacher that I was heckling. That was really exciting, by the way. And I said, hey, can you turn to verse 17? And these signs shall accompany those who believe, etc., etc., etc. And then it says, when they drink deadly poison, it will not hurt them. Can you demonstrate this for us? And after all, you are one of those who believe. And it says that it will accompany those who believe. Okay, so that started to change my opinion about my religion. And gradually over time, other things started to sneak in. This one, the speed of light. So if you're a creationist and you believe the Earth is 6,000 years old, you believe that all the light in the universe that's further away than 6,000 light years away was created in motion coming towards you. So this little circle here on the bottom, that's a circle around our sun, and this is a graphic of the Milky Way. We don't know exactly what the Milky Way looks like, but this is a really good estimate done by astronomers. That circle, that's 6,000 light years in radius around the Earth. So if you're a creationist, you believe everything outside of that didn't actually exist. We're seeing something that doesn't exist because God created that light in motion. That's a problem because astronomers will look out and they will see supernova, and they will measure the luminosity, they will measure the blue shift, they'll measure the composition of the chemicals in that star. And what you have to say is that God made that up to deceive those astronomers. And that's what bugged me. It wasn't the fact that it was ridiculous, it was that God would have been dishonest to do that. But that started to change my opinion on the whole creationist story. But I was also a conservative. I was listening to Rush Limbaugh, Sean Hannity, Dennis Prager, etc., all the others, the big talk shows on the talk radio. And this really, really bugged me for a while. This is a chart of all the states, and they're ranked by how much tax dollars they give divided by the tax dollars they receive. So a lower number on the left-hand side are states that give more than they get. And on the right-hand side, states that take more than they get. And they're color-coded based on how they voted in the 2004 election. That was Bush and Kerry. And it's kind of interesting, most of the states on the left are blue states. That means they voted for Kerry. And on the right, it's states that voted for Bush. And they're almost all on the right are red states. That's the taker states. And this sort of came in huge conflict with my beliefs because I was listening to the conservative talk shows. And one of the talking points that they always push for is that, those Democrats, those liberals are poor, lazy, underclass, poor people, basically. That they take from the government and they don't give back. And this counteracted that opinion. And I started to realize that no, there is not a lower class of people that are controlling the Democratic Party and getting them elected. It's at least balanced, and at the worst, it's the other way around. So, enough for politics, let's move on. Awesome facts. Here's an awesome fact that presented me by Steven Pinker. He was an amazing linguist, and he wrote a book called The Better Angels of Our Nature, where he discusses the decline of violence. If you listen to the news, you may think violence is getting worse, morality is getting worse. Actually, it's the opposite. It's getting better. It's getting way better. This is a chart of the homicide rates in different European countries. And it starts at the year 1300, and it goes to present. Notice all of the charts are going down. There is no place in the world where it is worse to live today than it was to live in the 1300s. You are safer today anywhere in the country, even in the countries most affected by the drug war. You are safer today than you would have been in the 1300s. So be happy. It's pretty great. Okay. So awesome fact number 6, the Large Hadron Collider. It exists, and it's amazing. So in the top left, it shows the Large Hadron Collider as if it was viewed from a plane, but it's underground. It's about, I think, 50 meters underground. It's a tube that goes around, and it is so large that they can accelerate protons to 99.9999999% the speed of light. So pretty much the speed of light. They're accelerating protons, and then they collide them. About 50 million protons collide in a second. And then they look at what comes out, the guts that come out. And they can find new types of particles. They found the Higgs boson in this way, and I won't spend an hour talking about that. But the really amazing thing is that there are about 150 countries working on this. 10,000 scientists working from 60 countries. Different languages, different religions, different everything, and all united for one cause, and that is to build a giant, awesome machine to smash protons together. And I can't think of any other place in human involvement where that many people can working together without issues, without religious issues, without political issues, without anything. And I think it's just beautiful that scientists have managed to band together in that way. And by the way, for scale, at the bottom there's a person wearing a black coat. That's how big that thing is. It's pretty gargantuan. Okay, moving on. Now this is what I really like. This is astronomy. Okay. You know I'm an artist and I like to paint pictures of space. Yes. Well, one of the reasons why I chose that subject is because it's just so awesome. VY Canis Majors, the largest star ever discovered. It is so big that it is 2 billion kilometers in diameter. Now that doesn't really make much sense because you can't really understand, but there's a picture of the sun and there's the Earth's orbit around it. Our solar system could orbit around this star. If you were to swap our sun with this star, you would have to be on a moon of Saturn to be outside of the star. It means Jupiter would be inside. We would be inside. It would be plasma everywhere in this room right now. Now, I did a calculation to see how big would the Earth be if it was right next to this star. So I scaled down the size of VY Canis Majors to the size of the Earth, and then I wanted to know how big, if we were standing on VY Canis Majors, how big would the Earth be as a comparison? And it turns out it's about as big as this building. So if the Earth was right next to VY Canis Majors, it would be about the size difference of this building and the Earth. And the Earth is nothing. It's so small, insignificant, but here we are. So whenever a giant star like this explodes in a supernova, the core will collapse into what sometimes is a neutron star. A neutron star is all this matter packed into a very small space, and it's so dense that if the sun were to collapse into one of these, you could fit all the mass of the sun inside the 610 loop. So that'd be a star that could fit inside the 610 loop with all the mass of the sun. And it's rotating. sometimes up to 1 million times a second. Because of if you know about like an ice skater, they pull their arms in, they spin faster. Well, what happens when you pull in all the mass of a star to almost a point? It spins up to 1 million times a second. And this is a video that astronomers picked up. You can see the ripples of the spinning. So as it spins, it's shooting out gamma radiation and all sorts of different radiation from the North Pole and the South Pole, and it causes ripples. And that's what you're seeing there in that animation. Sometimes when a star is really big, like VY Canis Majoris, it will explode and it will collapse into forming a black hole. Black holes are like neutron stars, but times 100. They collapse so far that not even light can escape because of the gravity. These are measurements of stars orbiting the center of our galaxy. The stars are orbiting around a blank point. There's nothing there. They can't see anything there except the gravity that's causing these stars to whip around. So they come around, and their orbits will sometimes be millions of years, and they come around and they spin. They go super fast because it accelerates. Just like an asteroid whipping around the sun, except their entire star is being whipped around. And this is how we know that there is a black hole, a supermassive black hole at the center of our galaxy. It's about, a few million masses of our sun. I don't know the exact number, I didn't remember it, but it is more massive than all the stars orbiting it around that center, for sure. And fact number 9 is dark matter and dark energy. So whenever scientists were looking up at distant galaxies, they noticed this weird sort of lensing effect. This is called gravitational lensing. It's whenever gravity acts as a lens and bends light around it, like this. So what you're seeing in this image, it looks like there are some blue galaxies sort of circling around this cluster of bright galaxies. These are galaxies, by the way. These are no stars in this picture. They're all galaxies. So the bright yellow galaxies are bending the light actually of one single blue galaxy that's back behind it. The gravity is so strong from this cluster of galaxies that it's creating a lens. And that's how astronomers are able to measure the mass of those clusters of galaxies. Because clusters of galaxies are the largest, most massive objects in the universe. If you can measure the mass of a cluster of galaxies, you can calculate the mass of the universe. And they did that. And it's a big number. So that's the last fact. I just wanted to show you a picture that I painted. And it's the A symbol. I'll let you figure out what that A stands for. You probably know.
In the sky, I believe in Allah.
Was that? Oh yeah, could be, yes. So yeah, if you wanted to check out more of my artwork, I have a website. You can come ask me. I also have some posters for sale in the back. I'll be back there afterwards. And yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.